What if I told you that one of the most valuable ways of learning about human behavior, body language, and communication is by doing what I just did? And that's not me creepily staring out of the window and just looking at buildings and skyscrapers. It's actually the art of people watching. People watching can offer you lessons and learnings that no university degree, no PhD, or no school program can ever offer you. So in this video, I'm going to cover some of the ways in which people watching should be part of your regular routine as a healthcare professional, outside of the work environment and also within the work environment, and how it's going to help you become a better communicator in order for you to connect and collaborate better with your patients. Welcome back to my channel, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me every week as you regularly do. My name is Shweta. I'm the founder of Healthy Dynamics. We are a coaching practice that helps English as a second language healthcare professionals. So people who work in healthcare who are either based in a country where English is the first language, or they're working in a setting where their patients predominantly speak English as their first language, and they are looking to, that English is not their first language, so they are all from a background where English is their second or third language, and they're hoping to improve their communication, collaboration skills with their patients in order to build trust, influence, authority, and impact. So if you fall under one of those categories, if you're, say, from one of the countries that's in Europe, South America, Central America, the Middle East, even parts of Asia, and you are wanting to, say, work in an environment with more English-speaking colleagues and patients, or you're already doing so, and you're looking to move and work in one of these countries as well, and you want to improve both your English language as well as your fluency, your communication skills, you've absolutely come to the right place. So what I just did in the very beginning of the video was what is popularly known as people watching. And as someone who loves to travel, especially loves to travel solo, and is also quite a naturally curious and observant person, this is something that's one of my favorite things to do, especially when I travel overseas. I always, just sit by a cafe or a bar or a restaurant during either the daytime or the nighttime, and I just watch the world go by, and not just the scenes and scenarios. I see, even if the language I'm not speaking the same language as the people over there, just by observing what people are doing in a day-to-day environment, in a situation where they just go operating as usual, I get to learn so much about how cultures influence behavior, how people learn, what are the things that people pick up from others, and how they basically operate and connect and collaborate with one another. And one of the other, I also recently watched a documentary on Amazon Prime called Body Language Uncoded. I'm going to leave the link to that documentary right over here. So if you have an Amazon Prime account, absolutely check that out. And that is what actually prompted me to make this video. So if you don't already all know, 97% of communication that we have with others is to do with body language. And body language encapsulates a lot of different things such as your facial expressions, the tonality of your voice, the pace at which you talk, the way in which you have your arms and legs crossed, and the eye contact, and many other factors. Now, there's plenty of content on body language, which I have made as well, not in as much detail, but there's a lot of generic information that you can find out about it. But what I wanted to really touch on in this particular video was how does people watching, what that teaches you about body language, and how getting a good grasp of that is going to improve your communication skills as a healthcare professional. So let's get started with, why does body language matter in communication? So as healthcare professionals, we often focus on what we say. That usually seems to be the norm, or what we really put our focus predominantly on. But the truth is, how we say it through all of the body language cues that I just mentioned a while ago carries much more weight, impact, and significance than the words that we use. So, for example, if a patient says to you, pretty dispassionately, "I'm fine," or they may even mean that, but their body language is showing a completely different story. Their arms are crossed, their shoulders are hunched, and they avoid eye contact. You're going to be questioning, are they really fine? The truth is that the body never lies. This is very similar to what the documentary that on Amazon Prime covered, and it also on an unrelated note, this also relates very well with trauma. So people who've undergone some sort of trauma, even though they may hide it and disclose it in many, many different ways, and they may not show it out in their face outwardly, it's going to manifest in their body in many, many different ways. And there's a very interesting book, which I'm going to be making a lot of videos on, written by Bessel van der Hoef, and that's called The Body Keeps the Score. I'm going to leave that over here. So that again, so your body really keeps score, not just of trauma, but everything else as well. How you show up and what you actually feel and what's on your mind. And that's something that you cannot talk your way out of, because the body never lies. Plain and simple. So being able to read these signs and manage your own body language can really help you think with things like detecting discomfort in patients, or sensing whether there's any fear or hesitation from their side, communicating with empathy and calmness without saying a word, build trust faster, especially with patients whose English is not their first language, or if your language is limited in best way. And the best way to do this, or one of the best ways to do this, is watching people and displaying curiosity and becoming observant. So people watching is not just about staring at the window and doing so in a creepy manner. So it's being very intentional, and it's also not about judging whoever it is that you're observing. It's about observing human dynamics and human behavior to better understand emotions, their thought patterns, their gestures, their movement and interaction. And if you're really observant, you can also get a window into things that they may be dealing with currently, or may have dealt with in the past, that has shown up, manifested itself in different ways. But admittedly, that takes a while to get a hang of, so I would not even get up to that point. So some of the ways in which you can people watch intentionally are as follows. Choose your location. So go to a cafe or a restaurant, one of my favorite places to do so, a park, say on the riverside of different, in various cities, or the waterfront, a train station, or even a hospital lobby, or even say in a clinic environment. These are rich environments where people interact naturally and they show up as their true, authentic selves. The second point would be to focus on one thing at a time. So people watching is something that you need to do on a regular basis, not just as, just a one-off and then that's the end of it. Try and do it on a weekly basis, and every week, try and focus on something completely different from what you did in the past week. So for example, look at things like how people greet each other, how they express confusion or joy, what happens to their posture and their facial expression, especially when you're waiting nervously, and a whole heap of other things. So just be observant of how they are operating and seeing. And also I would avoid filming and taking pictures or anything like that, because that's a violation of privacy. But at the same time, be mindful and take all of that information in, and don't be distracted and carried away by a phone or anything else that's there with you. Now, say for example, you might be a dentist who, and let's face it, nobody likes going to the dentist. Not be able to tell the difference between a person who's just nervous, who's coming in for, to the clinic for the first time and doesn't know what to expect. But at the same time, there's also the other factor of someone who's, say, coming in for a much more invasive treatment, like what my partner is going through right now, which is like an implant or a root canal treatment. So that's like genuine fear and phobia is what they can experience. And people watching on a regular basis will help you distinguish between both those things. And things like fidgeting, clenched jaws, or rapid short bursts of breathing can really give away a lot as to how the patient is feeling, and you can go ahead and comfort them and reassure them and show and validate their concerns and acknowledge it, and also show them empathy, compassion, and support. And some of the things that you need to look for when you are people watching are the most common non-verbal cues are facial expressions. So say for example, raised eyebrows can really mean surprise or confusion. Tight lips might mean pain or resistance. And I've talked about things like your breathing patterns and and clenched, if they are trembling, if their jaws are clenched, if their fist is clenched as well, that can also give something away. If their legs are wobbling a lot of the time, that again can also be a sign that they're very, very jittery and anxious and nervous. Is also something that you should really be observing. So things like slouched postures, which can detect fatigue, defeat, or emotional heaviness, or upright postures can signal confidence and alertness. And open palms, for example, that can suggest Now, how can people watching help you with interacting, communicating, and collaborating with your patients? Once you get good at reading non-verbal cues in public, you'll start using this superpower in clinic or hospital settings even without thinking previously. So for example, you can easily and instantaneously pick up when a patient is not telling you the whole story, or if they're not telling you the truth, or they're not being as open as you'd like them to be. And you can also notice the difference between language confusion versus emotional overwhelm, and also be able to adjust your own body language to soothe, empower, or reassure. So for example, in many cultures, now say for example you're a nurse and you're from an Asian background, where so in a lot of Asian countries, they to acknowledge or agree with something, they just nod along and they'll just say yes. And Asians generally, because they don't like to be confrontational, they just go along and nod with every single thing, even if they haven't got it, or if they haven't if they don't fully agree with you. Whereas you may go and work in a setting where nodding is not common. But that does not mean that the patient may not have got it. But at the same time, you may have to double down on how thoroughly or elaborately you're explaining processes to your patients, or in saying that also you're giving reassurances, and also picking up patients' hesitation, lack of eye contact, and shallow breathing. And you can also rephrase your explanation and provide the care, support, and nurturing with other mediums such as visuals and animations as well. So the bottom line is that you don't need, as I've always said before, you don't need perfect English to be a good communicator. What you really need is to develop your observational skills and grow your curiosity. There is a video I've done on curiosity in the past, which I'm going to leave in the very end of the video, and also be reflective and adapt your body language accordingly. So the next time you're in a public place, I would avoid scrolling on your phone. And if you have to especially wait for a long time, even if you're lining up to, say, get your morning coffee or something like that, look around, be curious, and ask yourself, what are people really saying to each other and themselves without the use of words? Because the more fluent you become in body language, the more fluent you become in connecting with people, no matter what language they speak. So I hope this was helpful to you. If you'd like to check out more content on body language, curiosity, being observant, and any others from the past, as well as any videos that I post will be posting in the future on a weekly basis, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Leave this video a like and comment your thoughts and feedbacks on whether you've done people watching in the past, and let me know your experiences with that. And as always, thank you very much for your time, attention, and presence, and I shall see you next week.